welcome back to Vinyl with Taste for what is now our 12th episode. I'm Oldskool Pat.
And I'm Dancehall, Nick, coming here live and direct. Phenomenon 1, Phenomenon 2, Phenomenon 3, you have to listen to the Don. Original Don. Original gold teeth, front teeth Don.
And this time we're bringing you what is going to be a rather ambitious episode, talking about punk influences and stylistic influences on what became punk. And we're going to start out with the years 1954 to 62. But before we do, I just want to bring up something. I went back and watched these shows over again, and I noticed I made a couple of mistakes. And so I wanted to correct the record, like any decent reporter would do. And so that time I referred to the Stalag 19 rhythm. There is no Stalag 19 rhythm. It was Stalag 13, obviously.
There is a 19 rhythm. We talked about that.
Well, there's 18, 19, 20, but it's really based off of Stalag 13, which is the 60s reggae instrumental that all the other versions use.
I'm just trying to help you.
Yeah, so I messed that up. And the reason why is because, hey, did you happen to know in the 1990s there was a Philly place called Stalag 19 where punk shows happened? So that was my slip with that, and so that's how it happened. And then just the last episode, I was talking about a woman who could sing like Louis Armstrong. They recorded for Lee Scratch Perry, and I was wrong. It was a dude, but again, there was a reason I screwed that up. There is a lady that sounds exactly like Louis Armstrong. In fact, I think Neil just ordered something from her.
Girl Satchmo on Blue Beat.
Yeah, so anyway, we make mistakes from time to time. We're not perfect, right?
Still, without that mistake, I would have never ordered that record.
That's true.
Do you have her on a comp, or how did that even come about with you? Because you told me that, and I was like, I never heard of that, but I'll look for it.
Yeah, no, I got a compilation, the Upsetter Record Shop Volume 2 on Heartbeat, which was a compilation of Lee Scratch Perry.
Well, that's got him on it. Pat.
It's got a lot of him. It's all like, late 60s, early 70s, before the Black Ark. When he was still working out at Randy's, I believe.
So he did her, too?
Oh, he did both of them? The guy and the girl Satch?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
I know he did the guy Satch, and you telling me that the girl Satch was on Blue Beat tells me that maybe, she was Prince Buster or something? I don't know. I don't want to make another thing here.
We'll find out. That's up and come. That'll be a next episode.
Yeah, and meanwhile, if you ever see us slipping, you guys can comment and correct us on our stuff. So, yeah.
So I got to talk about mine then. My slip up.
Okay.
Calling sleazy, Chris Christensen.
Oh yeah.
And not Peter.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big. That's a big one.
Yeah, I know that bugged you after you did it. So we're just getting the record correct now, and that's really about it. Everything else we said was pretty on the money.
Well, because I always call him sleazy, like all the time. I don't call him by his like Christian name or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
It's like, how often do you call Genesis Pjordridge like Neil, which was his name?
Right.
Nobody does that ever.
Never. No, never. It's like those weird ass names that Jamaican DJs have, like U-Roy, and who refers to him as Ewart.
Nobody.
Or Big Youth, Manly Augustus Buchanan, whoever says that.
You generally don't say Rodney Price when you're talking about Bionic Killer either.
Right, or
Capleton.
Burning Spear, Winston Rodney, it goes on and on.
Yeah. I don't even know what the hell King Jammy's real name is, but do you need to know it? No.
I'm looking at the book King Jammy's right in front of me. I know I could just open that up.
And just see. Enlighten us.
Yeah. I'll tell you who it is.
And Gregory Isaacs, what the hell is his name?
Yeah, I don't think that's a stage name.
I'm just kidding. It would be a mind blur if it was, though.
Yeah. Oh, God, this print's too small. I'm not going to get into it.
Okay, well that was a great intro to the episode.
Thanks. Well, now getting to the meat of the stuff. We wanted to talk to you about some really interesting stuff, influences on what became punk. You're talking about the 1950s, let's say 1954 to 62. I think a good place to start would be the jukebox at Malcolm McLaren's Teddy Boy shop in London.
That's a great place to start, and that's actually a good call. I hadn't thought about that, but that is true.
Yeah. So Malcolm McLaren, future manager of the Sex Pistols, ran a what they call a Teddy Boy shop, which is Teddy Boys in England, or rockabilly kids, and the first shop that he managed at the location that became the sex shop was called Let It Rock, and later on it was called Too Fast to Live, Too Young to Die. And there was a jukebox in the shop, and the jukebox obviously was stocked full of 45s of the hardcore rock and roll of the time that the customers there liked. So you would have stuff like Jerry Lee Lewis, and he's Jerry Lee Lewis is the last surviving alumni of Sun Records, Memphis, Tennessee, and I brought out a couple Jerry Lee things just to show you real quick. Some of the best you can get, which I'll put my phone on it. But it's this is a compilation called All Killer, No Filler, and it was put out on Rhino Records. Double disc set, goes through all his 50s hits, and then it goes on to his quality 70s country stuff, and back to his later rock and roll. And All Killer, No Filler really lives up to the title, being that it's, if you're going to get just one thing from Jerry Lee Lewis, this is a career-spanning anthology, and it's flawless from beginning to end. I'm a real Jerry Lee Lewis fan. I like his country, I like his rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean, I love the story about his Grand Ole Opry performance.
Oh yeah, that's right. He got banned from there, didn't
he? Oh yeah, he's just like, I'm the king of rock and roll.
Yeah, they wanted him to stick to just playing country, but Jerry Lee can't be confined to any one genre.
He's like, I'm the motherfucking king of rock and roll, and they're like, well, yeah, we said no cursing.
Yeah, I have a couple of Sun Record Jerry Lee releases, but they're not the 50s; they're 70s greatest hits. So I'll put my camera on that. But I got this is Jerry Lee Original Golden Hits Volume 1, Original Golden Hits Volume 2. Moving on from Jerry Lee. Gene Vincent was someone that was enormously popular in the UK. He went over there and did UK tours with Eddie Cochran, and he was a big stylistic influence on British rock and roll in general. I have a really good Gene Vincent compilation on Razor Tie Records, which is a very good record label, or was, from the 90s and 2000s, and this is my Gene Vincent CD, which is called The Screaming Best of Gene Vincent and His Blue Caps. 20-track anthology of Gene Vincent, who died young, who was from Virginia. And I saw his exhibit at the Virginia Museum of Music. And, I think Gene Vincent's band, as far as rockabilly bands go, I don't think anybody rocked harder than Gene Vincent's band, including Elvis's band. So, he did Bebop Alula. That was his big hit in the States, Bebop Alula. Have to mention Elvis Presley, who obviously didn't invent the music, but took the influences and turned it into something else. I have a couple Elvises that I pulled out, which were, his first stuff. There's this one that came out in the 70s. It's called The Sun Sessions. It was released on CD in the 80s.
So it's 70s stuff of 50 stuff.
Yeah, it was released in the 70s, and it's all his Sun Records output on, one CD or however many records it was. But the CD has 28 songs on it. It was all recorded between July 1954 and July 1955. And after that, he went to RCA and had the hits like Heartbreak Hotel. But the Sun Records Elvis, if you're going to hear any Elvis, is really the most groundbreaking Elvis because it's his first stuff, and it's.
I only got this one, the Christmas one.
Oh yeah, which one do you have?
It's the. You see that, the Christmas album?
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Got that one.
Well, I grew up with it, so I had to get it. I mean, I got some other stuff, but it's a lot of gospel that I thought he did well with. I don't get too far off topic.
Yeah.
I just want to show some. I want to show some wax.
Yeah, go ahead, show some hot wax.
I just did. You have a good day, sir.
I pulled out another rock and roll guy, Chuck Berry.
Nice.
This is an album his called Bio, but everybody knows who Chuck Berry is because he wrote a lot of blueprint rock and roll stuff, starting with Maybelline, going through Johnny B. Good and all that. Eddie Cochran is another one, 20 Flight Rock. Come On Everybody was covered by Sid Vicious.
Yep.
Something Else was covered by Sid Vicious. Eddie Cochran was very huge in the UK, and he died young as well. The only LP that Malcolm McLaren owned at this time, did you know the only LP that he owned was the soundtrack to Oliver?
No.
And so I have it too, of course. You want to see? There's my Oliver on LP. But I guess it makes sense because McLaren himself was such a Fagin-type character. Fagin being the guy in Oliver that took the runaway kids in and then sent them out to pickpocket and bring their money that they would steal back to him.
Well, when it comes to McLaren, he's, I don't know if you want to say a hero, but I guess he's one of my heroes.
Yeah.
Not a popular opinion, but, I love what he did with, I loved how he exploited the English youth to make punk, and then I like how he exploited the hip-hop scene, and then later the opera scene.
Yeah, that's right, he did.
But, I mean, he loved rock and roll. He collected, that was the first thing he collected was 1950s American rock and roll.
Yeah.
He loved it. He loved the clothes, and, he loved all that shit when he was a teenager.
Yeah, you can see the pictures of him dressed up in the drainpipe trousers.
And it was way before the whole situationist thing that he was obsessed with later in college.
That's true.
It was all rock and roll and clothes. Clothes and rock and roll,
Yeah. And, besides the obvious rock and roll and stuff that we've already mentioned, there was other things in that jukebox he owned too, like Max Bygraves. He had Things Ain't What They Used to Be, Boyd Bennett, 17, Randy the Rainbows, Denise, which I believe Blondie covered later on.
Yeah.
Denise, W-Do, I'm in love with you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
He had Vince Taylor on there. Brand New Cadillac was a song that was later covered by The Clash on their London Calling album.
Yeah, that's right. That was covered on this album right here.
Yeah,
London
so
Calling.
They did a shit version of it. Sorry to say, but
yeah, it's there though. I had to show. Yeah, but speaking of Elvis, that's where they got this cover from.
Yeah, they took it from his first LP. Which can you show my phone or whatever? Like, can you see like that, right?
Yeah. Here, show it. Bring it up higher. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway. Yeah, so that was on there, and they had they had Billy Fury, who happens to be my favorite British rockabilly. Billy Fury was much in the mold of an Eddie Cochran or a Gene Vincent, and I don't think anybody in America's heard of him. I went and put his completely self-penned debut record, which is called The Sound of Fury, Billy Fury. I put it on my Facebook page and maybe got 2 hits. People don't know who Billy Fury is, but they really should check that guy out. He was probably the best British rock and roller. Billy Fury, and Sound of Fury was a great record. Screaming Lord Sutch.
Yeah. That he committed suicide, didn't he?
Sutch did?
Yeah.
Holy cow. Well, yeah, I guess I'm not in the loop, man. I knew he was a politician for some time. eventually. But in the '60s, he was a really long-haired hit maker for Joe Meek, right?
Right.
Songs like Jack the Ripper.
Lord Such, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Screaming Lord Such or Lord Such.
Yeah, he bit the bullet.
No shit. I didn't know that. Well, that stinks. Yeah, Jack the Ripper was a big hit of his, and it was, scary stuff way before Monster Mash came out. There was a lot of American rockabilly coming out this time that wasn't really big hits, but that was influencing people that came along later in the punk movement, like the stuff on Born Bad records. Born Bad, I know there were at least 5 of them. I pulled out one I have on vinyl, which is volume 4 here. Born Bad is just rockabilly, more obscure rockabilly, and a lot of it, most of it influenced the Cramps, and the songs the Cramps ended up doing. Joe Meek, who we just brought up, was Screaming Lord Such. Joe Meek was a British record producer in the early British rock and roll era of that time. I have a compilation of his. It's also on Razor Tie Records, just like the Gene Vincent was. And it's called Hard to Believe It, The Amazing World of Joe Meek. It's a good compilation of his productions. It's got 20 songs on it.
I should have, actually have some Lord Such on 45 I should have pulled. See, we see.
Really?
Yeah, we should have, we kind of brought this together today. So normally we'll talk about it for like a week. But, so if this seems a little bit, what's the word? Disjointed, that's okay.
Yeah.
That, because, why not?
Yeah, we're living under quarantine times too, so, but, and here I am talking on a little phone. But,
you can hear you though.
What do you recall what 45s you have?
I got, let me see. I don't want to dig through it right now. I mean, I want to talk. I want to talk about the stuff that I already pulled.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I also pulled out Link Ray. Rumble was on the jukebox at 430 Kings Road, and Rumble was a famous song by Link Ray. See,
you're Pat's more into the 50s stuff than I am. I like it, but he's got more of a collection of it than Mr. Dancehall Neil, and that's good.
Yeah, we're not we all like some different things.
Right, we're not the same person.
Right. But yeah, Link Ray was huge influence on guitar that came after him because he invented the power chord for one thing, and that in turn had everything to do with what became punk and heavy metal. The Sound of Sun is a good Sun Records compilation I pulled. It's got Elvis and Carl Perkins and Jerry Lee Lewis and Billy Lee Riley and Johnny Cash, Roy Orbison, Charlie Rich.
You want to put it up to the camera?
Sure. You guys see that?
You kind of put it down. Like, put it down a bit lower. Is that a CD?
Yeah.
All right.
That's a good Sun comp. Of the many, many Sun comps. Also, a quick way of getting a lot of rock and roll, like original version rock and roll together, would be to get the soundtrack of American Graffiti, which I'll show you that one. That's a famous movie from the 70s. The soundtrack is a double record set that has a lot of original rock and roll classics on it, and as opposed to re-recordings, which you always have to beware of re-recordings because, an artist, Chuck Berry, he did Johnny Be Good in 56, 57, but he re-recorded it in 62 and made more money. He re-recorded it in 65 and 66 and so forth. And you want the original versions. not the re-recordings, and that's what's on American Graffiti, all original versions. So I wanted to get past the 50s. Let's talk about some stylistic influences in punk for the years 1963 to 1967, where you have, the modern rockers start coming in, the story, and you have the garage rockers, and you have the psychedelic rockers. Of course, the great granddaddy of all the psychedelic record compilations would be Nuggets, released by Lenny Kaye in 1972, a 27-track double record. At the time, now, there's Rhino put out Nuggets box set 1, Nuggets box set 2, 4 CDs each.
Yep, and I've heard that, and I always stayed away from that. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I guess I just wanted to concentrate on other things. I think it's good shit.
Yeah.
Like, I like the Sonics. It's heavy, and, the Kinks are heavy and stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's a lot of music out there, man.
Definitely is.
I mean, just with reggae music, like, I figured, like, if I could have veered that way, but I'd rather spend my money on all things Jamaican for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I have a massive reggae collection. I don't know anybody that's got more than me on that.
Yeah.
I spent hundreds upon hundreds of dollars, but the Nugget shit it's good shit. It's good garage rock. It's good. It's psychedelic, and I wish that I did have more of it.
Yeah.
But I do not.
It's fun to listen to. A lot of one-hit wonder bands and stuff, and there's even at the same time as Nuggets came out, there were compilations coming out that were not really legal, but
bootlegs.
They didn't have all the artists' permission to do it, but there were compilations out in the 70s.
So they weren't bootlegs per se.
Right. But let's call them semi-legal. The best one was Pebbles.
Right. Yep.
Pebbles volumes 1 through 10. Like, Pebbles is better than Nuggets.
You can get those on CD now as well.
Really? That's cool.
Pebbles?
You can get those on CD.
I thought you could get Pebbles and the Nuggets on CD.
Well, that's cool that you can get Pebbles, because I think that if you had to pick between the two, I'd almost go with Pebbles, because it's just kick-ass. I know somebody downloaded them to YouTube, so you can see some of these compilations, or listen to them rather in their entirety on YouTube. But yeah, and I guess going from that, you mentioned the Kinks. The Kinks were a huge influence, stylistic influence on what became punk. The guitar sound of "You Really Got Me." I don't know, just the whole Kinks attitude with songs like "I'm Not Like Everybody Else" or "All Day and All of the Night." And the Who, you gotta mention the Who.
Oh yeah, the Who, most definitely.
They were big influence.
Most definitely.
As well. Sex Pistols covered "Substitute." I even heard the Sex Pistols covered "I'm a Boy," and those are both Who songs. David Bowie, okay.
David Bowie, as pronounced by Funkadelic. No, actually, they said David Bowie. On MAGA Brain, David Bowie. He like yourself some David Bowie. Now, all of my David Bowie stuff is later, which is a crying shame. I should be shot. But I have Low, Lodgers, and Hero, which is all way past what we're talking about right now.
That's true, but
so
yeah.
preach it, brother.
Well, in 1973, Bowie came out with his record of covers. It was covers of 60 songs for the period that we're talking about now. 64 to 67, and it was called Pinups, and he covered songs by early Pink Floyd and the Who and the Easy Beats, and so he put the whole the retro mod things back in currency at that time. You also have releases around that time like Captain Beefheart, Save His Milk.
Mm-hmm. Now I for the record though, just so I don't have to go back and correct this.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I I do not think that you can get the Pebbles compilation on CD.
Okay, all right. So semi-legal, like we said, right?
You can get a bootleg. I can give you a
Yeah.
link for a bootleg underneath.
I think they were always kind of bootleg, though. I really do.
Right, but well, okay. But yeah, I don't want to have to go back and correct that, Pat.
All right. Yeah,
Since that's what we're doing.
no more mess ups. Another hugely influential band on punk, and the Sex Pistols in particular in this period, would be the Small Faces.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, the Small Faces. I mean, the Pistols covered several of their songs. They did.
Yep. Yep.
What You Gonna Do About It?
Whether they would admit it or not, they were into them. All of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Glenn Matlock was the big Small Faces fan. I really do.
Well, I mean, I know Jones liked them.
Yeah.
At one point. You know, but he's kind of like Rotten, where he was like, no, I didn't fuck that shit. You know, but they lie about a lot of shit.
Right. Gosh, got to mention the Rolling Stones from this period, even though like a lot of punk rockers wouldn't admit it. The Stones output, is collected on compilations like Hot Rocks 1, Hot Rocks 2.
What's your favorite Stones?
I think that I love Satisfaction. I mean, I like Painted Black.
Painted Black.
I like Fortune Teller. Have You Seen Your Mother, Baby Standing in the Shadow?
This is my favorite. Aftermath with Brian Jones on bass.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Aftermath. That's my favorite. You know, I could explain why it's my favorite, but we don't got that kind of time.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
That's my favorite. I only own 2 Stones albums.
Yeah.
All right, well, keep us going, Pat.
All right, moving on. Let's move on here. The period 1967 to 1974.
To 1974.
67 to 74. I would say that starts with the Velvet Underground and Nico.
Now I'm just saying, Pat. And all you groovy guys out there and gals. This might be a 2-parter.
Oh yeah.
And we will do that 2-parter tonight.
Yeah.
Because we are creeping up on half an hour. But we can start this section. Let's start it.
All right, so the first Velvet Underground album.
I'm gonna pull. I have it pulled.
Was a very groundbreaking album that pretty much. I mean, I just can't see.
Yeah.
The way punk happening, the way it happened, alternative music happening, it happened, or anything happening without
Lou Reed right there.
Yeah.
You know, he's a demigod.
He is, and there's also a really good, super essential, crucial.
Yep, of the box set. Absolutely.
It's 5 CDs, and you really should get it if
now,
you're able to.
Right.
Anyway, those records still sound great. I mean, everything that the Velvet Underground put out still sounds great to me, and a lot of it is really timeless.
When it comes to Nico, I got the Desert Shore Installation LP.
Oh, nice.
It's right here. Yeah, I like it. Really good. Chelsea Girl.
Oh, you got that one too?
Oh, an LP, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Let me show that.
Yeah.
Show that off. Right here. 180 gram. I mean, she was so great. She's just so different, you know. She's just a Warhol light that just didn't give a shit.
Oh yeah.
I mean that's my kind of thing, you know. I have an eye for that, you know. I don't like to be bored. I don't like to be bored when it comes to music, and I'm not gonna buy it if I'm bored. I don't buy music to vacuum the floor to.
Right.
I buy it to listen to. This is Marble Index LP, 180 gram as well. I really like this one. I like her lyrics. I'm really big on stuff if the lyrics are really good and I think the music is really good, then it's like a must have. And her lyrics were amazing, and John Cale, come on,
Yeah.
get the fuck out of here, man. You got
Yeah.
John Cale and Nico doing some fucking kick ass lyrics. You'd be stupid not to get it,
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. The Velvet Underground were hugely influential, but they never sold any records in the United States. Very, very much. It's one of those things where they say everybody that bought a record started a band, but in England they were made. England was made more aware of them because of David Bowie, his covers of like.
Well, David Bowie, and since we're on this time period, I like David Bowie. I'm more into his influence than anything else, because what he did was he took weirdo groups like the Stooges, and he took weirdo groups like the Velvet Underground and took them to England and said, "Hey, look at this," and that's why like the New York scene was bigger in England first because of Bowie, because he said, "Look at this shit. Look at this," and then all the crazy, the first wave punkers over there gravitated towards some American music because of Bowie's influence.
Yeah, he was covering Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground. He was putting out. He produced Raw Power by the Stooges.
Yep.
And he was the link. He was definitely the link and the Godfather. And all of his albums, say from Hunky Dory through Diamond Dogs, are absolutely essential.
Yeah, I agree.
Free punk documents.
And I don't have that stuff yet. I've heard it, but what I'm saying, like, see, we don't have everything. It's a journey.
Right.
But here's what we're gonna do, Pat.
Okay.
We're gonna cut this right now, and then we're gonna do another one, and that way, So by tomorrow, not only are you gonna get number 12, but you're gonna get number 13 too. That's two new videos.
13.
What?
Lucky number 13.
I know, because we have how many do we have recorded? 11.
Yeah, 11 down. This is 12.
And then you're gonna have 12 and 13. How that's that's a 2-for-1er. People are you're gonna like it. So take us out. Take us out.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed Vinyl with Taste 12. Influences on punk stylistic influences, and we will see you next time.
What year did we leave off at?
We are smack dab in like 1972 right now.
And that's fucked up because we didn't talk about Alice Cooper yet.
No, we haven't got there yet. But he's there.
So we surpassed that. I'm sorry. That's my fault.
No, we didn't pass him. I mean, I was going to go to Alice Cooper anyway. Yeah.
I pulled Love It to Death.
Well, that's the best one.
He's like, you bastard.
Yours is great too, but I'm not. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll see you. We'll see you in a few.
Zip zam bowie swoosh.